Our next race is the 42nd Legislative District State Senate seat. There are 3 candidates on your ballot for this race. Candidate Doug Erickson is not able to participate this afternoon. I would like to introduce to you candidates Tim Ballew and Pinky Vargas. The Washington State Senate is made up of 49 members, 1 from each legislative district in the state. 1/2 of the membership of the Senate is elected at the general election held in November of each even-numbered year. During the legislative sessions, the legislature is called upon to enact or reject legislation affecting public policy in the state, to provide for the levy and collection of taxes and other revenue to support state government and to assist local governments, and to appropriate the funds for these purposes. The Senate also has the exclusive power to confirm certain gubernatorial appointments. Although the laws are enacted only when the legislature is convened in formal session, policy issues and the general operation of state and local government are under continuous review by legislators serving on permanent and interim study committees. Washington State senators serve a 4-year term, and their annual salary is $47,776. The rules that will follow for this candidate forum will be the same as the previous race. The candidates will each have up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. They will have 1 minute to respond to each question and will make a 1-minute closing statement. Each candidate has a challenge card. Can you hold up your challenge cards? So each candidate has a challenge card. Candidates may use this challenge card to rebut their opponent's response. The challenging candidate will have 45 seconds to state the challenge, and his or her opponent will have 45 seconds to respond to the challenge. Each candidate may use his or her challenge card just 1 time. Carol Como and Shania Contreras are in our table over here. They will be tracking the time. The timers will flash a yellow sign when 15 seconds remain and a red sign to signal time is up. If a candidate continues, a bell will be rung for the signal, stop talking. We ask that the candidates be respectful of the time allotted due to the limited amount of time that we have and our desire to include as many questions as possible. I'd like to remind the audience to please hold your applause until the conclusion of the forum. We encourage members of the audience to provide written questions for the candidates. Questions you submit will be asked of both candidates. Ushers are available to pick up your questions and bring them to the screeners at the table in the front here. Ushers, can you raise your hand so people can identify you? And as we've been going throughout the day, if you raise your hand, the ushers have been identifying, and they'll come and assist you with your question card. Questions will be screened by league members Judy Hopkinson and Jean Carmian, also down here in front. They will be screening for legibility and clarity and to avoid duplication. I will alternate which candidate speaks first as I ask the questions. So, with the rules covered, let's get started. Timers, are you ready? Candidate Ballew, your 2-minute opening statement, please.
Thank you. Ostiaman Estralacha, Lahalman Sanasnat, my friends and family. My name is Tim Ballew, and I'm your candidate for the 42nd State Senate race. I'm a lifelong member, or a lifelong resident of Whatcom County. I'm a fisherman, but before that, I'm a husband and a father. And what has brought me to public service, if I had to pick one thing, it was to help promote and protect our harvesting economies that define this part of our world, and to be able to make sure that future generations get to enjoy the cultures and way of life of this great place that we live in. What you may know me best as is the former chairman of Lummi Nation that helped lead the team that cleaned up our seas from zombie fish and also effectively killing the coal port that was threatening our backyard. What you may not know about me is that I am currently your county council member at large and also a former Ferndale Education board member. And with these experiences, I've had the opportunity to consistently stand up for our community and stand up for the rights of our people and families of Whatcom County, the 42nd, and this great place that we share and live in and raise our families in. I want to continue these efforts in representing you and your rights at the state level to address the things that our community needs the most, such as education, health care, which includes a universal access to health care and protecting a woman's right to choose, promoting and improving our infrastructure for our community, and I commit to you to continue to stand up for the community and your rights, and I'm just very grateful to be here with each and every one of you today. Haishka.
Candidate Vargas, please give your opening statement.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pinky Vargas, and I'm running for the state senate because I believe it's time that we put people first. In our beautiful Whatcom County, we value our people, and we believe in being good stewards of our land. We want our families and communities to thrive, so we need to work together to find solutions on things like affordable housing, family wage jobs, and education. And that means K through 12, but that also means funding for trades and apprenticeships and community colleges and universities. We need access to water. We need affordable health care. We need to expand coverage for mental health and opioid treatments. And we need to ensure that we have the basics in our community, like safe walking trails and cell phone and internet coverage throughout all of Whatcom County. This matters to me. I'm an immigrant who grew up in Canada on a farm that my great-grandparents homesteaded over 100 years ago. And we lived in a house that did not have running water until I was 10 years old. I'm acutely aware of how critical water access is. I have 56 first cousins, so I grew up in a really large family, and that's a great training ground for politics because you have a lot of diversity and opinions in a big family. But you learn to have civil discussion, and you learn that you can have different opinions, but you can still love and care for people. And I moved to the United States 22 years ago when I married a U.S. Marine who was stationed at Whidbey Island, so that's what brought me here. I do believe in a duocracy, and that means I've always been active in my community. I'm in my second term on Bellingham City Council. I'm currently Mayor Pro Tem. I've served on finance and chair and Whatcom Natural Resources, and I've brought my energy and environment experience to things like the Bellingham Energy Prize and our Climate Action Plan. I've worked in Whatcom County to tackle big issues like our housing crisis, homelessness, and criminal justice reform. I will bring my experience. I'd be honored to earn your vote. Vote Pinky.
I'll now ask the first question, and candidate Vargas will answer first. What experience and characteristics make you the most effective candidate for this position?
Thank you for that question. I will tell you that I've been thinking about this role for 2 years. I'm a planner. I like to think things out and figure if I can do something and be successful. And when I put my mind to it, I do it. And I've been thinking about how we are underrepresented in the Senate. And I've worked throughout Whatcom County on boards and commissions and helped people solve big issues like how are we going to deal with our lack of affordable housing? How do we deal with homelessness? How do we do criminal justice reform? And I have been very passionate about trying to find solutions and work across both aisles. Most people don't consider me just a political person. They know I'm somebody who cares in the community and will do whatever it takes to get things done and find solutions and work with people from all backgrounds and all walks of life. And I feel like I am absolutely ready to represent us at the Senate.
Candidate Ballew?
My past experience of public service and being the executive of a rural government here in Whatcom County I think has helped prepare me to serve the people as a state senator. As for characteristics, I think, as Pinky said, we are underrepresented. And as a Native candidate, I'm very honored to be one of the many Native candidates nationwide stepping up for publics to serve the public and represent the people. And a little known fact is that Native Americans were not allowed to vote since 1924 was the first time Natives were allowed to vote. My grandparents were one of the first generations who were able to vote, and I'm honored to be a candidate to serve the people and represent the community. And I think it's been far too long that the part of the community that's been here since time immemorial is able to represent the community at the state level. Thank you.
If elected, what legislation would you make a personal priority to pass because you believe it would most benefit the people of your district, and why do you choose it? Candidate Ballew.
There is one thing I learned early in my experiences in public service is that you don't always get to pick the things that you work on, and it's very important to focus on what's in front of you here and now. And I know that the legislature did, this last session, introduce a bill that would help protect the rights of healthcare workers to improve the work conditions and make sure that, that there isn't mandatory overtime, and also allowing more breaks for the healthcare workers that are providing service to us. I think that I would very much want to see both the House and Senate pass that to protect the working rights of the healthcare workers who are taking care of us as patients.
Candidate Vargas, your answer?
We have a lot of things in front of us, but if I would say the thing that I think that would affect and help the most people is if we had access to affordable health care. Healthcare affects every single one of us, and nobody should be losing their home because they can't pay their medical bill, or not be able to buy groceries because they have to pay for prescriptions. This is outrageous in our country this rich. It is absolutely our responsibility to take care of each other. And I think that if we all had affordable health care and we didn't have to worry about keeping the job because it only has health care, or staying in positions that we're not comfortable in because that's the only access we have to health care, that's not who we should be. We are a very strong, rich, powerful country, and everybody here should have an opportunity to affordable health care. I think that is our responsibility.
Are there legislative measures you would support or propose to keep children safer in our schools? Candidate Vargas, your response first, please.
Yeah, so there are a lot of areas that I think our children are very afraid to be in school, which is such a shame. You know, school used to be a place where we all felt safe and loved, and I think that our children shouldn't be afraid of, obviously, of gun violence, and ensuring that we have more gun responsibility laws on the books would go a long ways. I also think that we should have more mental health care providers in our schools so that children have people to talk to ensure that they feel okay. Children are also afraid if they are in immigrant families right now. Am I going to lose my parents? Is somebody going to be deported? These are terrible things that our children should not be worried about. So I want to make sure that they feel safer in school by ensuring we have more gun responsibility, mental health care, and ensuring that our immigrant families feel safe in this country.
Candidate Ballew.
As a father of two young children, I think that I share the same sentiment as many families and parents that when we do send our children off to public schools, we expect that they're going to a safe environment where they're going to learn and work towards a better future. And I think that implementing stronger gun responsibility laws at the state level is an important step to prevent any future gun violence that occurs not only in our schools, but in public places where our community members go out for education, recreation, work. It's incumbent on our leadership to bring these changes to make a safer community for all of us.
Next question. What do you think are the best opportunities for economic development and job creation in your district? Candidate Ballew?
I think that there's many areas that we should definitely focus on. Definitely strengthening the, as I mentioned before, agriculture and harvesting, fishing economy that's definitive of this district, I think definitely needs support. Also, I think that we need to do a better job of improving our infrastructure across the district and making sure that we have better, improved, safe roads, which would bring good labor jobs for the construction of those roads, and also implementing access to broadband internet across the district is vitally needed to make sure that we could continue on with healthcare, education, and commerce that are directly linked to access to broadband internet.
Candidate Vargas?
So economic development is something that I've been very concerned about for quite a while, and I've been working on a regional economic development strategy with our port, with our small cities, and with our county, and it's something I'd like to do at the state level. I think we have a lot of opportunity, particularly in the agricultural industry. We could do things like value added, like ensuring that we are processing our products here and having those jobs stay here instead of going out of the county. I think that we have more opportunity for different kinds of agriculture as well. I think we could have cannabis farms. Those would grow very well here in Whatcom County. They grow easily, they don't take much water, they're good for the land. We also have more opportunity in our marine industry and also in agribusiness, where there's a lot more technology in agricultural industry, and that's something we could grow and foster here. And we could also ensure that we are pooling all of our resources to do things like what the Northwest Washington Fair is doing in a partnership with WSU and agricultural studies, and bring those jobs and that education here to Whatcom County.
Next question. Do you support the extension of the Canadian Trans Mountain Pipeline to Cherry Point and south through Whatcom County? Why or why not? Candidate Vargas, please.
You know, this is a really tough thing because environmentally we always want to do the right thing. And we're always looking at what is the safest way. Obviously here in Whatcom County we've had tragedy due to gas line explosions, and that's very relevant to who we are and how we feel about having gas oil transport through our county. I want to do as best as I can to ensure that we are protecting our environment, and I want to do the safest thing. So at this point, I have mixed feelings because I want it to be safe, but I also don't think that a lot of oil trains coming through our county is the right decision either. So for me, it's going to be about what is the safest one and what is the best that protects our environment without disrupting our county.
Candidate Ballew?
I do not support the expansion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline into our district. I do support the current industries that are operating at Cherry Point, and I think that our district and our community is contributing to these industries at a significant level, and that we shouldn't be bringing in any more of the product that would increase the probability of a derailment or a spill at sea. If that were to happen in our ecosystem, it would be devastating. It's something that we cannot afford to have happen, and we need to do things like support and build on the legislation that was just passed this last session to prevent spills in the sea, to protect our habitat and ecosystem for the future.
Next question. Many, if not most people, believe man-made climate change is happening now. There is less agreement on the magnitude of the threat, the need for legislation, and if needed, what form the legislation should take. Do you feel climate change is a significant issue? And if so, what legislation do you support to mitigate climate change? Candidate Ballew, please.
Thank you. Now more than ever, we need strong leadership at our local and state levels. With the winds of change and uncertainty occurring at EPA and across the board at the federal level, we need strong leaders in the state to protect our rights as a sovereign. We are a sovereign, and we need to act like it and recognize it and stand up to protect our environment. And this isn't just for this issue, this is across the board for issues of immigration, healthcare, education. More and more, we can need to rely on our local leaders to help stand up and defend our rights. And in terms of climate change, I think that legislation is definitely needed to protect the future, and I would be humbled and honored if I were sent to Olympia to help move forward legislation that would protect our habitat and environment for the future.
Candidate Vargas?
There is no denying that climate change is real, and we need to get our head out of the sand. And we need to be as active as possible. I spent the last 12 years in energy efficiency, working all the way throughout Whatcom County with our businesses, with our organizations, to figure out how we can do carbon reduction and how we can reduce to a more renewable future that is less fossil fuel dependent. And in order to do that, we need to get there together. We are unfortunately very dependent as a society right now on petroleum. So how do we work on research and development, figure out energy storage, transmission, and focus as much as we can on renewable energy? And we can do that here in Whatcom County. We have great people like iTech who are building solar panels right here. And I think at the legislature, I'm going to help us transition together with our organizations like our refineries and our renewable energy products so that we can train people for a different future that focuses on carbon reduction and focuses more on renewable energy.
Next question. The Washington Health Security Trust will be a part of the legislative conversation again this year. Will you co-sponsor and vote to support the Washington Health Security Trust? Candidate Vargas.
Yes, absolutely. I think people need to know that they have the security, that they know that they can rely on that, and I absolutely will support it.
Candidate Ballew.
Yes, I would support the Health Security Trust when introduced this session or future sessions.
Next question. What action should the state take to fairly allot fresh water for all purposes? Candidate Ballew.
Water certainty for the entire community is an extremely important issue, and I would be honored to work on that with community members. And I think that, in general, local governments and local stakeholders need to be empowered to be part of the solution. The more I hear from the planning unit and the folks working on the outcome from the Hearst legislation this last session, there's a definite need and a want from the community to work on addressing where we get our water from, what the water quantity level should be in the Nooksack River Basin, what the water quality level should be, and having accountability across all those measures. I think that it's very important to include the locals, and as a legislator, I would push to have local stakeholders be a part of the solution to bring water certainty for the entire community.
And Candidate Vargas.
Water quality and access is the question and challenge that most of the world is dealing with right now. We are not alone in that. And the current Hearst decision was a total pass the buck in regards to our state legislator, and our current senator did nothing to help us in Whatcom County, and I promise to do better. And I think it's really critical that we figure out how to share our water, and we figure out to make sure that our water streams have enough water for our salmon and that our farms have enough water to grow their agriculture. So I think sharing our water and working together locally, this is a huge problem that we've been working on in Whatcom County for a long time. So I'm not going to pretend that I alone have a solution, but I'm willing to work with people to figure out how we can share what we have so we all thrive.
The state and federal courts have found that the state legislature has not been funding state obligations. For example, in the McCleary case regarding education, providing mental health services, and in correcting salmon blocking culverts. How would you fund these obligations? Candidate Vargas.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big question. So obviously funding McCleary decision, it took them 2 years to figure out how we were going to fund it, and it is not still fully funded. So, and figuring out how we're going to pay for culverts, these are pretty big decisions. We have a regressive tax system as it is right now. So not putting all the weight on people who are particularly low income, paying all the taxes to find all our solutions, it's not working. We need to figure out how we can close some tax loopholes to bring more money in, and figure out how more people who are at a higher tax bracket can pay a little bit more to help us and have a little bit more dispersity in and fairness in sharing. So we have big issues to solve in regards to our tax system to figure out how we're going to pay for things like education and water access.
Candidate Ballew.
Definitely both of the issues of education and repairing fish habitat are important for the future. Investing in education is something that's going to be vital for the future of our children, our communities, and our workforce. And making sure that we have access to early education is extremely important. These issues, how will we pay for it, will be through revenues, and we would need to generate more revenue as a state. And I agree that we do have a regressive tax system, and that we need to be looking and finding ways like implementing a capital gains tax, where roughly around 5,000 people in the state who are most able to contribute to the government services do so at a graduated scale or sliding scale, so to speak, so that the working families of our community who are least able to contribute and put into the are already being unproportionately taxed, aren't shouldering the burden of providing the services.
Next question. What can you do to bring cell phone and internet to the whole county? Candidate Ballew, your response, please.
I think it's important to support initiatives like the Dig Once policy, improving the infrastructure throughout the county and district that would lay conduit so that fiber could be provided to the entire district. That is going to be crucial to the future of access to affordable broadband internet for the community. And I think that that's a good start. There's already a proven record down in Skagit County where this is being done. And as I mentioned before, this is extremely important to the delivery of healthcare, education, and the commerce of our district.
Candidate Vargas.
So I've been spending the last couple of weeks throughout our county and discovering all the places that do not have cell coverage and internet coverage, and really seeing what it's like for people in our county to have to live that way. It's a public safety issue in regards to if you're all alone and how do you call for help? How do you run a business if you don't have internet coverage? How do the police departments talk to each other? How do the fire departments talk to each other? It's a critical safety issue, and it's also a public fairness issue. So I think it's critical that we figure out how to get internet and cell phone coverage throughout the county. I do believe in Dig Once, but that is planning and preparation. We need this to happen now. I know Representative Jeff Morris in the House has worked a lot in regards to figuring out how we can give everybody internet access and figuring out how we're going to fund it. And I think it's critical for public safety, for economy, and for quality of life for everyone to have cell and internet coverage in Whatcom County.
This is a long question, but the actual question is at the end. Center for Disease Control and Prevention publishes a social vulnerability index to measure community resilience in the event of emergencies such as natural disasters and diseases. The CDC data shows high levels of social vulnerability in East Whatcom County, on the Lummi Reservation, in areas around Ferndale, and in parts of Bellingham, including downtown and the Puget and Roosevelt neighborhoods. Many of these areas have a higher poverty rate and are and are where people of color are more likely to reside. What would you do, if elected, to improve the resiliency of these specific areas of our county and in our state in general? Candidate Vargas.
And also, I would add to that Columbia Valley, where there are 5,000 people with no internet access and no cell phone access and have very little access to jobs. So it is all throughout our county that people are in a low-income bracket or suffering from discrimination. I come from a very colorful family. We have people of all kinds of ethnic backgrounds in my family, so I will tell you we have lots of diversity, and I hear a lot of things from those who are also suffering from low income and discrimination. I think it's important that we be in those communities, and instead of hoping they come to us, we find ways to communicate with people who are very busy with their lives, don't have a time, but we need to stand up for them, and we need to be a voice for them to ensure that they have all the programs and the access they do so they can have the same quality of life as everyone else, and that includes education, and that includes opportunity to have food. We have too many food deserts in our county. Oh, and I got the stop sign.
Almost.
And Candidate Ballew, please.
As I live in that part of the district that you described, and I recognize the disparities across the district. I think that investing in education, making sure that there's pipelines both to higher education, but also the skilled workforce trades, so that people are able to live and choose a productive life that they want to participate in the community in, is important. And what needs to be addressed immediately is the public health crisis of the opiate abuse and addiction that is not just here in this district, but it's across the country, and it is amplifying those disparities that exist in those parts of the county. And I think that the services are available in here. We just need to empower the agencies to come together and provide wraparound services so that we can start addressing the mental health issues and the drug abuse problems around that issue. Thank you.
What legislative measures would you support to address the availability of affordable housing for middle and lower income groups? Candidate Ballew, please.
A couple issues of housing affordability, which is very important to our district. The Housing Trust Fund has not been fully funded at the legislature for quite some time, making sure that that's fully funded, and also going back to the older version of how that's appropriated so that experts in the field have a way to have input on how to best utilize that funds are important, and also supporting legislative decisions like appropriating some of the existing local tax so that locals are able to put that money towards solutions and find a local solution to this local problem are two things that we could do at the state legislature, and I think that those would be good steps towards addressing, a good start towards addressing the housing affordability issue.
Candidate Vargas.
So housing affordability, there are two accesses to that. There are people who are want a new home, maybe starting a new family, but then there's also low-income housing, so which is often funded particularly by the state, or here in Bellingham, we have the Bellingham Housing Fund that helps us address that and build more low-income housing and give opportunity for people who might be on a fixed income. And some things that we've done here locally on Bellingham City Council is change some of our zoning. So allowing for more infill and reducing some of our impact fees, what makes it easier for people to actually build housing and more opportunity for people to get into housing. It's doing things like at the state level, ensuring that there is funding for low-income housing, that we are that we are supporting things like CDBG grants, and we are ensuring that people don't have discrimination for housing, like things like Section 8 certificates, and nobody has housing discrimination when they're applying for things. So changing our rules and regulations and ensuring the funding is there.
So the candidates will each now have an opportunity to make a 1-minute closing statement. Candidate Ballew, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Again, my name is Tim Ballew, and I'm your candidate for the 42nd State Senate race. And I'd like to close by thanking you all for being here and thanking you for being the community leaders that you are, including you, Pinky. You've been a great running mate and candidate. I appreciate the campaign that you're running. And I truly believe that community leadership is asking yourself what you're comfortable doing to chip in and represent the community. And leadership is taking a step outside of that comfort level and doing just a little bit more. And I commit to you that my comfort level and stepping that little bit more is running to be your state senator and representing your values and standing up for your rights. And I hope to earn your endorsement and also your vote on August 7th and November 6th so that our values are represented in Olympia. Again, my name is Tim Ballew, and I really appreciate your time. Haishka.
Candidate Vargas, please give your closing statement.
I'm Pinky Vargas, and I first ran for office because I wanted to be a voice for women, the environment, and social justice. And I will stand up to bullies and ensure that our voices are heard. I am a progressive person I have progressive values, but I have moderate sensibilities, and I will always ask the question, will this improve people's lives, and how are we going to pay for it? A few of my endorsements, Representatives Chris Litton, Jeff Morris, Congresspeople Susan Del Bene and Rick Larson, Mayor Kelly Linville on the County Council, Rudd Brown, Todd Donovan, Paul Sadhu, many others, and organizations like Planned Parenthood, the National Women's Political Caucus, the State Labor Council, IBEW, and the Building Trades. I will focus on what we have in common because I think it's time to put people first. You can find me at votepinkyvargas.com. Vote Pinky!
Please join me in thanking our candidates for being here today.
Thank you.